Ready, Thomas?
We're
just get
going.
started?
Yeah, we're
Okay,
ready
good.
to go.
Right on time.
Yeah.
Thank you. I am improvising a sign-in sheet, and I forgot one. But I did bring maps. We're going over community growth boundary amendments, if any, land use designation amendments, and we do have a request from Mike. Is it Mike or Michael? Michael Santarelli about a land use designation amendment that will incorporate into the overall discussion. And then also if there are any planning boundary area amendments. And I have the big maps coming. Jack is bailing me out because I walked out of there without them. So
I'm not interested in a land use designation change. It's more just getting into the community boundary.
oh, okay, good. Then we'll talk about it at that time.
Okay.
That's fine. Yeah.
And where are you?
For clarifying.
Where's the property?
Yeah.
Near Bonham Road, right there at the
Okay.
junction of Bonham Road. Yeah.
And we'll make sure that you have like a chance to explain it to everybody. But I also
Okay.
made copies of your request too, so we'll all be looking at it at the
Okay.
same time. Personally, L.A.P.A.C. Just your first and last name, if you don't mind. I'll start. Thank you. Just for our records. And I also brought the second survey in case anybody had questions about that. But we've been handling, let me give you an overview. So,
Thank you.
yeah, sorry. I assume everybody knows
For the
what I'm
newbies.
talking about. Yeah.
Not at all.
All right, so we have been having a series of virtual and now in-person meetings for specific planning areas. The county's divided into 8 planning areas, and Lower Lake is one of them. So we have been meeting virtually with L.A.P.A.C members and anybody who wants to attend that's available to go over key issues and then also discuss the results of the second survey that we were administering, I think until we ended at Lake County Fair. So like 2 weeks prior to the fair and ending at the fair. Hey, we're at the Lower Lake Community Center on 2nd Street. No, it's not Brick Hall.
In back of the brick hall.
It's in back of the Brick Hall.
Okay.
Over by the
Okay,
park.
Just pull in where the park is back there.
Super.
I'll find you.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye.
That's the big map. Okay. That's actually our new chief building official, Jack Smalley, who's helping me. So we've had in-person meeting. So far, we've had
I'm
one
the fly on
which
the
was
wall.
all planning areas together to look at the large map that's coming to talk about are the planning areas still representing what we think of as the Lower Lake community or the Upper Lake Nice community or the Shorelines communities. That's the planning area boundary discussion that we'll have tonight. But then we were also going through the survey results to make sure that the questions that were posed, like what can the county do about helping out with wildfire? What can we do about communications? All the types of things that the community or that the county can do to help the community over the next 20 years to preserve what we consider to be assets. And when I say me, I mean the community, what the community has voiced as assets and valuable things to preserve. And what needs work that we can be working on over the next 20 years, which is the lifespan of a general plan. And so we've been gathering lots of really good input on that, and we'll continue to work through those virtually. Another thing that we're handling virtually is taking a look at the existing area plan, and Lower Lake is our oldest one that we have. But each area plan contains a listing or recording of what the county or what the community's priorities are and objectives, what we intend to get done, and then implementation plans, which is how we intend to get done or accomplish the objectives. So we're going over that. Staff has, our CD and community development staff has created like long lists of just pulling them all out of the book and getting them into one list so that people can review them and just mark, keep this, or no, that's out, discard that, or this one, we need to change it or update it. And so that's the next endeavor that we'll be doing on the virtual meetings. So tonight's purpose is to be able to all be looking at these maps to address any amendments that we want to do that you can see on a map, like a community growth boundary change, like Michael's going to have, or land use designation change. And in the general plan, the land use designation tells you a lot, or tells you about what the community anticipates as an appropriate grouping of uses that should be allowed in that property. So if you take a look at this first map, this is just an aerial so that we can see the road names, because sometimes they're harder to see with the overlays on them, which are the next few pages. So there's Lower Lake. Next page is the community growth boundary. And I think we can just go ahead and start with this so that whenever Jack gets back, we're still working. Community growth boundary is typically where you're going to find your municipal water and sewer. It's where you're going to see your commercial areas located, as well as your medium to high density residential areas.
Can I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
If this has not changed, as reflected here from the general plan and the Lower Lake plan?
Correct. Yeah. The update of an area plan is typically when you'll see these changes, the community growth boundary changes, because it's very important that the community be leading the vision for where they want to see development happen in the future. So the next page is the land use designations for Lower Lake, and it has a key on the left-hand side. So you can see the yellow, which is your single-family residential, the orange, which is your higher density residential, suburban reserve is sort of that beigey thing, and that's what Michael's going to be talking about tonight too. But these different land use designations govern how many houses you can put on a parcel, what type of commercial. Like, are you allowing small offices, like local commercial, your surveyor's office, or barber shop or something like that, or is it more community commercial, like we picture our main streets? So it's serving the community, but also people are coming in from out of the community. It's just slightly more regional than local. The pink, more industrial. So you'll tend to see the pink and the, that's public facilities, but pink for industrial or service commercial, that's where the uses, you'll see more of your factories. And so you'll notice that those are kind of on the outskirts of the main part of town, because to have something that has excessive noise or dust or dirt or hazardous materials, things like that, we tend to put those on the outskirts and keep them off of our main streets. So let's start with Michael's request. Thank you, Jack.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think that it'll actually serve as kind of a good exercise for us to sort of think about land use, and it may spark some ideas or recommendations or suggestions for, sorry about that, Eddie, for other additional ideas for changes.
You know, as I look at this map here, I didn't realize that suburban reserve is surrounding the 8 parcels that I'm requesting just to be in the community, Lower Lake community boundary. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really not prepared to talk about the suburban residential reserve request.
Oh, I can talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem. Why don't you start by describing how this request came about?
Okay, well, it came about when I looked at the map and saw that our parcels were not in the Lower Lake community boundary and growth boundary. And I said, well, we should be, because we are just right across the street, right across Morgan Valley Road from the community growth boundary. And we are in the water district, and those parcels that are developed are hooked up to the water. And it's a paved road, and we have electricity. And it sort of, if you look at the, if you could look at the let's see what you gave me here. The parcel map that shows.
It's on your page 3 of the packet that I just
Yeah,
handed out. Yeah,
Well, I know where mine is.
yeah, and then 4 and 5 show what looks like APN pages, so maps
Yeah.
of the parcels.
Yeah, if you have page 3, the map there, I think.
Where you colored it in yellow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the 8 parcels that that are not in the Lower Lake Community Growth Boundary, that are right across Morgan Valley Road, of those parcels that are in it. And if you notice, Bonham Road is right there too, so it's right at an intersection of Bonham Road and Morgan Valley. It's not way out Morgan Valley, it's only about a mile outside of the town of Lower Lake itself. So the request was for these 8 parcels to be included in the Lower Lake Growth Boundary.
So they already have municipal water and sewer to
Yeah,
them?
the Lower Lake
Okay.
water, not sewer, no.
Not sewer, but Lower Lake water.
Water, yeah.
All right, and they're currently zoned rural residential, which is, it's
5-acre minimums.
Yeah, it's 5 to 10 acre minimums. Typically, you'll find oh hey Sam, you'll find septic or well uses there, and that's one of the reasons why the parcel sizes are larger. It's interesting that these parcels, and if you look at them on the larger handouts that you have, they follow right all along Morgan Valley Road.
Yeah, they're right there.
Yeah, so it's interesting that they weren't in a community growth boundary, but because if you take a look at that last page on the large 11 by 17s, you'll see roughly where the water districts are. This is actually the water district sphere of influence plus a 1,000-foot buffer, because it was a map designed for a different purpose. But you can see in Lower Lake where it does go out and covers those parcels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what I didn't research was if the water district sphere of influence map and extension was after the adoption of the Lower Lake area plan. It could have been,
Yeah,
but
I think we're
anyway.
the last ones, I think, that get water, I believe.
Yeah, you were the last ones.
Okay.
You're on the water road out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're on.
Oh, okay, you're out
Yeah, we
that
both-
road too?
Next door to him.
That's
cool.
Harbaugh, yeah, that's
Okay.
the last, well, it's not
Cardboard,
the last
yeah.
cardboard. And also on this map that I drew, there's a little parcel inside of
Oh, yeah.
Travis's place, and I put it in there because
It's like right here.
Harbaugh's place surrounds it, and it would just seem kind of odd to put the
Yeah,
community.
yeah, we don't want to really hopscotch around.
Yeah.
Good.
And the benefit I see, I don't see any benefit immediately, except if and when the sewer gets down there or any sort of services or development, it'll help those parcels. And I think that's where the growth is going to really go in Lower Lake. It's going to be out in this area.
What type of growth do you anticipate going there?
Rural residential, just homes,
Okay.
but maybe you can do more than one home. I think you can now. You can,
Yeah, so you're not asking for a change in the land use designation from rural residential, you just want to have that added to the community growth boundary.
Right.
Okay.
In order for it to be changed, I would want to get together with all the property owners and see if that's what they want as well.
Tell me about the slopes out there.
Okay, well, let's see what I know. We're going left to right.
Okay. Aerial. The reason why I'm asking is because since it's rural residential, it may not be all that sloped, or it looks like the outskirts of it are, but you've got some flat lands right in there too.
Yeah, along the road it's flat, and there's two parcels that have some slopes. The parcels right across from Bonham Road, on the south side of Bonham Road, and then I think Harbaugh's property has some slope too. But I think the Haas property, the three properties to the west of Bonham Road have if there are some slopes, they're just rolling hills. There's nothing really steep.
Okay.
Where your concern for slope is why?
Concern for slope is only, like, when you bring something into a community growth boundary, you're anticipating development in the future, not necessarily intense development. But as you get into the higher sloped areas, that's where you'd find it restricted just topographically from development. So it seems as though that would be compatible. In that it would remain rural residential, and I see other properties within our community growth boundary that are rural residential, more on the sort of the periphery, but still within the community growth boundary.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be consistent with that. It wouldn't be the only rural residential included. And if it does have some flat areas that could support rural residential development, it doesn't. I don't see any conflicts.
Well, if you had sewer out there, it could, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you could get it down to one home per acre,
Right.
you'd be able to get a few extra homes in there.
So the benefit of extending a community growth boundary is it's telling then the county, including special districts or any of the sewer districts, that this is where we would like to see a sewer district, the mainline extension occur out there. We'd like to see that incorporated into our municipal sewer system.
When it does
Exactly.
get out there.
Yes. And because they need to sort of plot those things ahead of time, they're looking to see where the community is identifying areas that would benefit the planning to add those in for mainline extensions in the future.
Is the town of Lower Lake on sewer?
I don't know. I didn't
I
research
didn't
it.
think there was any sewer in there.
No sewer?
I
Well, then
didn't
you
think
already
so.
have water.
We got water, yeah.
Most of Little Lakes on sewer, yeah.
Yeah, because we don't have,
Most of the, where, you mean the town?
I think right in the
Commercial
town,
area?
yeah, it must be on
The
sewer.
residential around here is sewer.
Because we've got parcels that would not accommodate
Yeah,
the
right, like,
individual septics.
Right.
So yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
good question.
Yeah,
Thank
like
you.
even right around here, then they'll have to be on sewer, yeah,
Mhm.
okay. Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, same in Quarterhouse. I think I remember with a lot of the rebuilds, that was part
Yeah,
of the
there's
questions.
small lots there, that whole
Yeah.
thing got developed, yeah.
Yeah. So let's turn it over for discussion for the group. Are there any questions about the request?
So you were, if I understood correctly, you were suggesting that in the future, these 5 and 10 acre parcels would be allowed to build one house per acre? Is that your-
Well, there's other criteria, slope density is one of them.
Yes.
Uh,
Which would, the reason why I ask is
Yeah.
because then that necessitates those parcels being broken up and given, obviously, parcel numbers for that.
Currently, rural residential has a 10-acre minimum in the general plan. The zoning ordinance is in a position of conflict right now, which it's not supposed to be, because it says that you can do like a 5-acre.
Right.
So for the last number of years, at least when I started as a planner and was learning the ropes, depending on what director it was, it kind of flip-flopped. And so I've been working on going towards the general plan, because that's the community's vision, is the 10-acre minimum. And the zoning ordinance is going to become consistent then with the general plan as part of this update. Whether or not that minimum acre size for rural residential is going to change so that it's 5 acres minimum, or whether it's going to stay at the 10 acres, I don't know, because that's part of our process.
So how would
But
that,
right now, it's at the 5-acre minimum.
Yeah, because your parcel size are already,
5 acres,
5
6
acres.
acres,
well then,
some of them.
they're already made, so we're not going to worry about it. It's just for future subdivision options.
Yeah.
So let's say the rural residential is a 5-acre parcel. You can have one primary residence,
one AUD?
one ADU, yep,
I mean,
and one
yeah.
junior ADU.
Oh, really?
A junior ADU is no more than 500 square feet, housed within the living space of the primary residence. So it's a carve-out, not of your garage, but actually of the living space of that house. So like a second story, or you build a wall or something like that. It also has an efficiency kitchen, and what else was it? It doesn't have to have its own entrance. It doesn't have to have its own water or sewer. Neither does an ADU. So your single rural residential parcel of 5 acres would be able to have up to 3 dwellings by state law.
Yeah, yeah, I really wasn't thinking about that. Like I say, the first thing I was thinking about is getting in the community growth boundary so that if sewer ever gets out there, that would facilitate some development for some people. And maybe it could get down to 1 acre per unit.
Going down to 1 acre would be possible if you rezoned to suburban reserve.
Yeah,
Right.
okay.
And rezoning, so in order to do that, you also first start with the general plan land use designation of suburban reserve. And I brought explanation of the different types. So let's just take a look at the difference between rural residential and suburban reserve. And I'm making a mental note that I'm going to make a gazillion of these copies so at our next in-person meeting, I don't have to just read it to you like it's story hour, but you can just sort of read it. Sorry.
I had some copies myself, but I didn't bring them.
Excellent. Okay, so I'll just read suburban residential reserve.
Yeah.
This use category serves as a transitional designation between rural residential and urban residential uses. But due to soil and slope characteristics, lots generally larger than 1 acre minimum are necessary. Where found in mountain areas, this designation would temporarily serve to limit densities until the establishment of appropriate infrastructure to support higher densities. This designation is located within or inside community growth boundaries. However, exceptions have been made for existing subdivisions located outside of community growth boundaries, and additional land division may be appropriate on parcels already designated suburban residential reserve when found to be consistent with the existing development pattern already established in the vicinity. Expansion of this land use designation outside of community growth boundaries may be considered in order to implement it. Then it cites a couple land use policies in the general plan for appropriate mixed-use resort or business and industrial park developments. This designation has the potential to result in conflict when located on the fringe of community growth boundaries adjacent to ag uses. Because this is where suburban reserve is where you're going to get more residences, and we like to sort of distance those from our ag because we have the right to farm ordinance. And so when you complain because they're spraying, it's like, well, sorry, tough.
Choose to live there.
Yeah, because and so that's why we try to limit switches that'll bring uses into conflict when we're working through this. Let's see, density is 1 dwelling unit per acre, except it can go up to 3 acres minimum too. It kind of depends on if your location is in a water recharge area where we want to keep the land permeable, so we'll sort of minimize development, or if there are excessive slopes on your parcel, which also limits the development per parcel, which would then cause us to want smaller minimum acre sizes or smaller minimum parcel sizes. And that's it. Here, I'll have it in case anybody wants to read it. If you're visual like me, it helps to see it.
I was just trying to figure out what is the difference between the low density and suburban, but it sounds like maybe the lot size.
Low density residential, if it's hooked up to municipal water and sewer, can go as small as a 6,000 square foot minimum parcel size.
Okay.
Each of those parcels in low density residential can each have also a primary residence, an ADU, and a JADU. So it could look much more populated. So a lot more houses.
Would it be advisable to request that these parcels be included in suburban reserve boundaries? Or be changed?
I think you should ask for what you want now
Yeah.
and don't wait till later. So
Yeah.
if you wanted to make that request and the L.A.P.A.C amenable to that request, then it goes forward as far as a recommendation. So I have not actually taken a look to see I would identify each average slope to make sure it meets suburban reserve. But just looking, I see areas it looks before you get to the tree line, which shows all the hillsides, it looks like you've got developable areas in each of those parcels. I don't know if you would be able, depending on the slope, or I mean, no, sorry. Depending on the criteria for subdividing for suburban reserve, I'm not sure like this teeny tiny one probably wouldn't be able to
No.
subdivide. The larger one encircling it, you may have some, but we would take a look at that time if you wanted to subdivide, if it was in suburban reserve, we would take a look at the requirements that would qualify it for subdivision in that time. But if you wanted to request a land use designation change to suburban reserve, then what I do is I look to see if there is any nearby, and you've got it on north of Morgan Valley as well as west of your locations. Because we don't like to do spot zoning, which is
Right.
just like a little island of a certain land use type, unless there's a reason for it. So.
Yeah, well, that's what struck me right away when you gave me this map. I had never seen this before, the
Mhm.
suburban reserve all around.
Yeah.
And initially, I did talk about changing it to suburban reserve, but then I thought that was too much of a change, too much of a grab, too much of a movement for the planning department.
Well, it would also be consistent in that suburban reserve is typically inside a community growth boundary.
Well, yeah.
And so there would not be any conflict there either.
And it might look different 15 years from now,
Yep.
since we're looking at a 25-year plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm going to raise a thorny issue. I'm not on this map. And I've never appeared on any of the maps that involve Lower Lake that I could find, other than the large one. Because I live in Jerusalem Valley, which is rural residential, and I'm part of the Lower Lake Pact, but I'm, since Jerusalem grade vacillates back and forth between Middletown and Jerusalem Valley, I have basically a blind view of what, if you're saying, here's the plan for the Lower Lake, I have no idea how that impacts me,
You're right.
or not.
You know what? That's actually my bad. Because the maps that I was thinking about when I was printing them out was only about community growth boundaries. And then what I should have done that I didn't do, and I'm really sorry, is to continue to zoom out of the Lower Lake area and start looking at the communities also that may not have community growth boundaries, but are still included in the planning area.
Within the government site, there are some maps, I have some pictures of them, I just didn't bring my computer, that show where those boundaries vacillate and where that occurs. But it seems to continue to pop up in discussions. It's kind of like, I'm okay with us talking about Lower Lake, this is great. And I'm okay if we talk about Middletown and Hidden Valley Lake. I want to know which one of those am I a group of, and what's the intent for the future.
Well, yeah, so that's great. That's a very good question. Why don't we group your questions right now with your handout, which we're going to go over also, because that's a good time for us to then take a look at the larger map
Okay?
and make sure that Jerusalem Valley is represented
Yeah,
and considered.
okay.
Okay, good.
And Como Lakes Ranch Association.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Because we're,
good.
Yeah.
there's been talk of Middletown swallowing us up, and we're like,
Really fell one way.
Okay. Well, we're going to cover that then on the
What's-
larger
I'm
map.
sorry. what's
Como
the-
Lakes Ranch.
Oh, Como Lake, I know where it is, I'm sorry. just a
So,
little
no,
bit
it's
here.
all right. And
Yeah.
I know at one time we were also talking about like Sunrise Estates.
That's another one
Bringing
that's on that
them
big
in.
map. Yep. Yeah.
So,
Because they're
good.
half and
So
half.
are
Thank you.
Are you
Okay.
as confused as to where you lay as well as I am?
I'm not confused, I'm concerned.
Yeah, well, that's probably stated better.
All right, let's get through
Yes.
Michael's request, and then we'll
Absolutely.
hand out Vince's points, because a number of these points are something that we should discuss as well.
Okay.
Does anybody have concerns with extension of the community growth boundary for those 8 parcels and changing them to a suburban reserve land use designation?
Seems to make sense.
Yeah, I would say if you're looking for potential growth in the future,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you got to make space for it, or it's
Yeah.
not going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay. I am gonna record then
Thumbs
that
up.
we have support of that request.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Excellent.
request is made.
Easiest general plan amendment ever.
Yeah, right? Well, this is such a cool thing to be able to do right now during an update, because
Yeah.
otherwise it's thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And probably a good 8 months to a year, and a
two.
planning commission hearing, and
Yes.
yeah. So I just love it that we're able to do this just by integrating it into a community vision, because then we've already got the buy-in.
Yes.
So, thank you.
When are you anticipating decisions on land use and boundaries to be finalized?
Good
As in,
question.
You're not bringing in any more in.
Okay, good. So this is what I'm calling L.A.P.A.C season, and we're having just the meetings right now that will then be passed on to the core team, which is also still me, but more people.
Go team.
And mid-November is when we start drafting the area plans. We're going to work on them from November through December and probably a little bit into January. And so during that time period, we're not holding any L.A.P.A.C meetings just because I don't have anything to show you guys. So we're just busy writing. But come January is when I start reaching out again, because that's when we have a draft to actually look at. And so that's when we are starting to do more outreach again to the public to say, okay, here's what we got. What did we miss? What did we get wrong? Is there anything that you didn't think of the last time that now we want to add? And that's a period of public input as well. So at that time, but that's not the end. We're also doing, through 2025, we're doing environmental analysis of how all of these changes could affect the environment. We're going to have periods for public input throughout that process on that document as well. So when we get the drafts and they've gone through public review, and then the CEQA, the environmental analysis, is done, that's going to take us through most of 2025. And through that, we'll have probably at least one general plan advisory committee meeting, at least another 1 or 2 L.A.P.A.C meetings per L.A.P.A.C, so that's 16 different meetings. But at least probably 1 or 2, and I'm going to kind of play it by ear, because it depends. Some communities like Riviera's, they all pretty much agreed from like day one, so their meetings are going to be pretty easy. But I want to make sure that the points that need discussion get an adequate amount of discussion. So yeah, your responsibility is to check out our get on that email notification list so that you receive those email blasts, so that you know when I'm going to be asking for your input again. So don't miss those opportunities, because it's so important that by the time we get to the end, these documents are really reflecting the community vision. Otherwise, what good are they? You know?
Right?
Yeah.
A little hard to come back and go, wait.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't want to hear any whining after we're done either. So, but these general plan, the way we're doing it now, we're actually, instead of like the Lower Lake element or Lower Lake general plan, just being off on its own as a document that we do refer to, but people felt like disenfranchised. Like, is it really that important?
Yeah.
We're integrating all of our area plans into our general plan. So they are all going to be different elements or chapters of the general plan, and will be submitted to the state as one document. And so, yeah, I think that'll help clear up any questions about, my community's vision doesn't count in these projects, because they're going to have equal weight. So it's really awesome. It's a really cool opportunity. So I'm really thankful that you guys are taking your time to show up.
Sorry to late to the party.
Oh, no, not at all. There is no late to this party.
We actually just heard about it from the roundtable discussion of the 2 supervisorial candidates.
Oh, really?
Like,
Okay.
oh, we need to be part of that.
Yay.
So,
Awesome. All right, so we're good with Michael's request. Let's move on to the next part, where we're going a little more, well, actually, now that we sort of walked through that request, as you look at the town of Lower Lake proper, does it spark any other sort of ideas for other amendments, either extensions of the community growth boundary or maybe other changes in land use?
I'm curious the consensus of commercial. What are everybody's feeling about the commercial designations? Is it sufficient? Is it in good locations? I know, we only have, and I know it's outside of the growth boundary, but, one industrial area that is not utilized at all. So I'm just curious what the others think, Phil.
What are you talking about in particular? Which parcels?
So right now, the commercial areas, community commercial and service commercial are basically Kugelman Road, bordering along the highway, and then outside, and I'm not even sure what that is exactly. I guess Jonas Card Lock, or the Card Lock, and then industrial, which we were talking about being like manufacturers or, big. There's one zone on Clayton Creek. And so as more residents come in, obviously you need more commercial services. So is everybody okay with the areas that are designated? Is it big enough?
That Clayton Creek one, that's an industrial zone.
Yes.
Not commercial.
Yes,
Industrial.
right.
So that's
But it's
fine.
the
It's not-
only industrial, which is fine. It's not even being utilized right now,
Yeah,
but
it's pretty big.
If it is helpful, in the second survey, we asked those questions. And one was, should the county expand opportunities for growth beyond Main Street? Let's see, 15 people said yes, 10 said no. And some of the write-ins included commercial activities, live and workspace, think call centers, I don't know what that means. More restaurants and entertainment, mixed use, local shops. Then another question was, would you like to see more commercial development in Lower Lake? There were 14 yeses and 13 nos, so I thought that was kind of interesting. It kind of like, some of the yeses sort of backed off a little bit for that next one.
A little cautious.
Yeah, but some of the write-ins were coffee shops, hair salons, gas stations, restaurants, hardware store.
medical services.
That all sounds like healthy items that you need for a healthy small city or area.
I thought that was enough commercial because it seems when you go through Lower Lake, there's a lot of vacant land that can
yeah.
be developed already. So rather than add more, let's fill up what we have.
Okay.
The question I would have is, how is industrial defined?
I just happen to have it.
You have to read.
Yeah,
That's
I'll
not
give
what I
you
meant.
the short version.
The abridged.
Let's see.
That's the bigger stuff.
Industrial provides for a range of manufacturing, processing of natural resources, research facilities, and high-tech campuses, heavy commercial activities. Okay, so including possibly geothermal service yards, large construction or contractor yards, warehouses, asphalt batch plants, mills, lumber yards, boat building, welding, and fabrication shops. Those, so you can kind of picture the kind of impacts we're talking. Yeah. One other thing I wanted to add is, in all the different planning areas in the surveys, we have received very strong support for introducing mixed use into our commercial areas. So that is adding an apartment on top of a coffee shop, or having a house, having residential opportunities along Main Street and in our commercial areas.
Yeah.
Worked really well for Windsor. I don't know if
That's
you're
what I was
familiar.
thinking too.
Yeah, I can remember when I used to live in Santa Rosa for a number of years, and Windsor was a big, really Windsor, and they started doing their planning and included that. It's very attractive and has been obviously pretty successful.
Yeah, they built it downtown, basically.
I never understood why they didn't put apartments above the strip there next to the market. You have all those offices and stores and stuff down below, some empty, some being utilized, thank you Adventist Health and others. But I'm wondering, all those vacant upstairs, why they aren't apartments or...
Well, the only reason I can think of is because the previous general plan and zoning ordinance did not consider mixed use.
Right.
It's really limited.
Okay.
And so this would be sort of loosening it up so that we'd have more walkable neighborhoods.
How would you do that, though? How would you change it for color coded? Would you have a different color code for it?
No, it will actually stay the same colors, but in our book, in descriptions like this, it would talk about residential
Mixed
uses.
use.
Yeah, it should be in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And in case, like some people get worried because they've been to the Bay Area and they've seen these whole new communities just be built with, you know, a couple hundred apartments and the stores down below. That's not really what we're thinking of in Lake County, because we still need to really preserve the small town character
Yeah.
that's been expressed as a key asset.
But we had talked about that there was a design element, you know, possible, that we could add a design element that any new construction look like the facade of the rest of downtown Lower Lake as opposed to industrial apartment buildings.
Yes.
They would have to maintain, especially on Main Street, you know, they would have to maintain that.
We're going to have discussions regarding design guidelines also in our virtual meetings as well.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're pretty interested in that.
Awesome.
It's sad when you come into town and the first thing you see is cigarettes stored mortuary. It's like, go Lord.
In a jail.
Yeah,
right.
jail.
But that one's
Yeah.
kind of cute.
Yeah,
Not super welcoming.
I could see that. Yes.
Smoke you to death.
Okay, so are there any other areas that you anticipate or have wondered why we haven't sort of spread the commercial area in Lower Lake? Why it hasn't expanded, or are you pretty good with the way it is right now? Have you heard of any pressure for additional commercial development in areas?
No.
Okay,
I
okay. That's
So we're
fine.
looking 25 years out?
25 years.
2050.
So it's hard to tell from the aerial, but this area right down in here could be a potential, maybe, because it's on Main Street, it's just past the
That's,
museum, but it looks like there are houses on it already,
yep,
so it'd be redevelopment type stuff.
right, yeah, we've got high-density residential if you're going down, looks like Winchester Street and 3rd.
Yeah. Just,
These large parcels are low-density residential, which I have found really interesting, because they're big.
yellow. Yeah.
Yeah, and so at low-density residential, that means these parcels could be subdivided. They have access to water and sewer, it looks like. So they could be subdivided into 6,000 square foot parcels if they wanted to be.
It's a lot of lots.
That's where
It
the
could be a
Clayton
lot of
fire-
lots.
The Clayton fire
It
went
would
through
look-
there.
Probably more like quarter horse. What's the name of this community? Quarter horse that got pounded by the fire, Clayton fire? Like quarter horse Mustang, that's gotta have a name.
Topsy Creek. No?
Kelsey Creek? Is that what it's
Copsey
called?
Creek.
Copsey Creek?
Copsey Creek, yeah.
Okay.
What, you know, when I see low-density residential and I see high-density residential, to my mind, low-density means very few homes on these lots, and high-density is multiple homes, many more. But when I hear you speak, it's just the opposite.
Not quite, but I can see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So when I think of low number of homes, I'm thinking of rural lands, 1 per 20 acres. Or rural residential, 1 per 5 or 10 acres.
Yeah.
Then you're starting to go into what we call our residential zones. So you hit suburban reserve, which is 1 per 1 to 3 acres. And then you start going into R1, which is 1 home per 6,000 square feet possibly. But those are our typical neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Your one house on your one lot, you know.
Right.
And then medium density residential is when you start seeing some duplexes, possibly a triplex. So it's a little bit more. Your apartment complexes are going to be in your high density residential.
Okay.
Your condos, you'll see those out there. Well, yeah,
Okay.
sort of. But that's where you start seeing multiple dwelling units per acre.
So the HDR next to what I'm assuming is the school district and the are the apartments there on Winchester as well as,
Exactly.
yeah.
And when we look for areas for high-density residential, we're looking to locate them near services.
Right,
So, because you'll see, he'll have a lot of families in those apartments, they need to be near the school.
right.
And we also look for the commercial areas, local commercials, so they can walk to neighborhoods. We want to promote safe multimodal transportation, including an increase in pedestrian travel.
Well, it's interesting that the one on the corner of Bonham and Morgan is there.
I got nothing. I don't know what happened there.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Do you?
Howard Day was a supervisor at the time,
Okay,
and he owned that property, and he got it through.
interesting.
It's a fourplex, and it
Yeah.
shouldn't be there.
Oh, okay.
That's right across from our ranch house, and it shouldn't
Well,
be there. I saw it
One of the
being built.
things that, as we continue to move, we have ever increasing regional housing needs assessment numbers. We call them the RENA numbers. Those get handed down every 6 years because that's the lifespan of a housing element. And so when those numbers get handed out, and we're expecting them next year, it tells Lake County how many opportunities for dwelling development do we have possible. That's why maybe a medium density residential out there might have been supported, because sometimes jurisdictions are looking, we have to satisfy this number, so we take a look at everything we've got zoned residential that could be developed and see what number it is, and how do we figure out where we have to meet the state's minimum if not exceed it. So when I look at that medium, I'm like, well, that's odd, but cool, good, because we need those opportunities for housing, which is actually why I requested that mixed use be put on the survey, is because I wanted to see what the community felt like as far as now that would open up opportunities, not gazillions, but some that would count towards housing numbers. So that's an easy way that we can increase it while still maintaining the small town feel. Because a lot of communities in general are like, yeah, we totally need housing. We're in a housing crunch. We got a housing crisis, but I don't want it right there. Why don't you go talk to the other guys in that other town? I'm sure they want it. So I think incrementally or smaller increases are the way that the community feels like it can support growth. I can't lecture to you guys all night. I want to hear what you have to say. So, okay, what I'm hearing is we're pretty good with the way it is. Nothing's really jumping out at us as pressure to increase. So we'll probably be fine so far. But we'll let you know later when the draft comes out and we have something to look
Except for my
at.
request.
Except for your request, which
Yeah.
everybody's amenable, so we're going to set that one aside. And let's move on to Vince's stuff.
My gripe sheet.
I would say your list of ideas and thoughts for us to consider.
I love it.
That could include great things to change. And I'm going to get the big map out too, so we can start looking at the whole planning area, since I forgot to zoom in on Jerusalem Valley. Sorry about that, Vince. But I can understand why you feel disenfranchised if I can't even remember to get you on a map.
Any hand with that?
No, I think I just need to get to it. I just need to find it. Lake Forest.
Did Travis go back?
No.
Lower Lake.
No,
Thank you. I guess I did write out that.
Is Daddy okay?
Yeah,
Thank you very
just wanted
much.
to go visit him because he's alone.
Okay, Lower Lake. Has a lot more than just Lower Lake on it. All of our planning areas are gonna extend out to the county line where possible. Because we have to have, the way Lake County does it is, we include all parts of the county into a community or a local area plan.
So I can show you where it's at.
Oh, go right ahead.
It's over here.
Wait, what? You're not in Lower Lake area plan?
Nope.
But you moved
What are you
them.
doing here?
The Lower Lake area plan got,
This has not been
No,
we
moved.
lost land.
This is
No,
the
this is-
existing, and this is
this
the
is-
proposed.
right.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
which is
proposed.
something we have to talk about. Wait, aren't you in there?
Nope. If you want to Google my address, I can show you where we're at.
Yeah, let me get my.
Yeah, because Hofbacker's right there,
That's
so
right.
in Jerusalem.
Jerusalem grade is there.
Road,
Road, yeah, you're back there.
right, Houston Valley Road.
So,
If we pull out the Middletown map,
What street are you on?
yeah,
I happen to be on Corvette Lane.
Is that off of Jerusalem Grade Road?
It's off of Red Canyon and Coon Flat to, I know, and then most people. So don't feel bad.
We need more signs out there.
Yeah.
are you then in this one?
Well, let's get
Middle?
out there.
Let's pull it
Here's
over here.
Middletown. Yeah, put it on, if you put it on the table,
Here,
so.
let me lay it on the table here so we don't obscure the view there. And let me see.
Should be near the top. This, here's Hofbacker.
I've done some work for
Hidden Valley.
Sunrise Shores Water.
Okay,
This should already be in the same, whether it's in Lower Lake or not.
that's one of our discussions,
Okay.
that we should just keep it all the same since we're kind of
It doesn't
dividing a
have Spruce Grove
community.
on here, so it's hard to.
They're on the same water system.
on here, so
Mhm.
it can't include us.
Urban
That looks like
services.
Steinhardt Lakes, what they used to
Right,
call Steinhardt
right.
Lakes.
That's
on
a
the
very
map.
good point.
So we would be
These guys out here are
off in this
different water
area
systems.
somewhere. So we're not even on
Not
this.
up in
I
this
don't know
area?
if this is-
No.
South London, yeah.
That is Riviera, I think. So it's either going to go all into Lower Lake or
we're not
get
on this
absorbed
map
all into. What?
Well, the
Wait,
streets aren't there, so it's hard to.
Yeah, hard for me to show you where we are without
right.
some roads.
One moment, let me hook this up to my phone hotspot and then I'll hit the planning area map, GIS. And we'll find your actual address.
So it should be in this area here.
It would be, so where's Hidden Valley?
Hidden Valley's here.
So Hidden Valley's here. So
Right.
the backside of Hidden Valley is here. So, you know, we're, like I said, that's used to be called Steinhardt Lakes. And so there's a number of roads out here that
Yeah.
aren't included.
Okay, one moment, we're gonna get this figured out. No.
Interesting.
All right. Okay, county GIS.
I'm open to comments on what you see or what I've written. If you,
Oh, sorry,
I
got lost
am.
in the habit.
yeah, that's okay.
Well, good. I hope you're happy.
So where are you?
I'm not.
Yeah?
You're not on?
I'm not on that map.
Good.
I'm on the Middletown.
So you can
So
take
What
this
street address
list of
is that?
contacts somewhere else.
Type in 21, 120, Corvette Lane.
Corvette like the car?
Uh-huh. Lower Lake.
Oh, yeah. All right. This is on the county GIS system with the planning area diagnosed. You are in the Lower Lake planning area,
That's
according
interesting.
to our GIS map, so let's figure that out. Well, good, I'm glad you're not wasting your time.
I'm a part of that.
Are on the map.
Yeah.
On the map.
On the Middletown map, they are.
But,
Well, it misses it here.
Has to apply
Okay, wait,
as
that's
a,
weird.
Yeah.
travel
Because I thought these
representative.
got taken right off of the GIS system.
Being here I
And I
am.
know that's been confusing for everyone because
Oh,
I
yeah.
keep complaining about not being on a map. So here's Jerusalem Lake. So that road comes down this way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you're here.
Yeah,
Let me see.
I do have some input on this.
This has
One
no-
thing, working in public works, have
I don't know what they're
input on this
intending
one.
here.
Which one?
Some of these private roads.
Jerusalem
and
grade, okay.
I don't
So-
think.
Parameters and things that,
The landowner.
Canyon
has
Road.
that responsibility.
Where is that,
Well,
in here? No, this is a whole subdivision right
part of
here.
the problem is.
Oh, that is that
residents
subdivision.
Have not dedicated their private
Yeah, you're
roads
in.
to,
To the
Jerusalem.
well, yeah, to the
Grade.
county
Well,
in
then
this
it's not a
case.
county road.
And so.
Am I in the right
the
spot?
maintenance
I can see you.
responsibility
I'm
falls
sorry.
Okay, oh, go right ahead.
Not really hard of hearing, I don't see well.
When I did.
Yes,
the
yes, so we're in this area, so there's Corvette Lane.
Yeah.
Okay.
They didn't accept responsibility.
So that's
for maintenance.
this.
So that
Yeah.
could
They could
be
do that
that.
too.
Okay.
Okay.
And they don't, so why aren't any of our roads listed on there? They claim them as county roads, although the county does not
I
maintain
don't
them.
know. But you're right here. You're just
Okay.
in this big green blob.
Okay?
Yep. At least you're in the
Okay,
right.
at least,
Okay.
Yeah.
at least I'm in the right
Yes.
group.
Right?
Yes.
Good.
Ah, Thank goodness, that was gonna
I
be
like
very
this
embarrassing.
group. I like being with this.
Excellent.
Okay.
So
All right, so now let's go over your
Huh?
stuff.
You found a home?
I found a home.
Yes, you are, you belong.
Bob is
Okay, so I don't want to commandeer that.
Okay. Why don't you walk us through your list of observations and requests?
Yeah, so basically the roads that we live on, and if you look on her map, there's Red Canyon Road, there's Coon Flat, there's Junebug, there's Snake Ranch, there's Corvette Lane. There's a number of them out there that through the interaction with Lower Lake Fire Safe Council, we got the CAL FIRE kept getting lost when they would come out there, and finally asked us, they finally said, okay, we need to get these roads named, would you draw us a map? Whole process, they didn't even, their maps were wrong, and as you can see maybe why. So finally they went to the county said, okay, we'll name the roads, because everything out there was just called Jerusalem grade, period. 100, 200, whatever, I don't remember how many homes. So we said, for years, owned the property for over 20 years, lived there for almost 15, and continually asked county services, can you do something? No, I'm sorry, those are county roads, but you have to maintain them. And my complaint is, if I had the equipment, I couldn't go on your property and go, well, you need to move your fence line because the road's too narrow. And if I grade the road and I make ditches and it runs onto your property, you can sue me. If it causes environmental damage, the county can sue me. How can I be held responsible for maintaining these roads? That doesn't even sound to make sense to me. Now we have, as a small community, I mean, you come up with $200 or $300, and you come up with a little bit, and we'll put some gravel in places, but it's not enough to maintain county roads. But they will not grade them for us. The other complaint I have is your garbage services, assuming you have a 5-acre parcel or whatever you have, you roll your garbage can out to the end of your property, set it on the county road, and they come and pick it up. For me, I have to load my garbage can into my truck. That's the garbage, the recycle, the green waste. Drive it, for me, about a third of a mile to half a mile out to the road, set it out there. The county will come by the following week and dump it, and then I can drive out there again and go get it, and then I can drive it up. So I refuse to be on the county services. It's hard for somebody that's elderly. I'm pretty mobile. I'm very fortunate at 78. There are people that, the neighbor who's in her 80s, she can't do that. We have a couple of disabled people, they can't do that. That to me is redlining, and it's wrong. Those are services that the county has provided to others. If you live on Jerusalem grade, all you gotta do is move it out to the end of your property, and the county will pick it up. Why do I have to do that? Why the county refuses to grade our roads? That's my largest complaint. It's wrong.
Okay.
And I feel that the county didn't do their due diligence and complete their job. They assigned us addresses, they assigned us streets. Garbage doesn't pick up. I can't make the contract with the garbage company. I can't force it. We can't even get the U.S. mail to deliver to a mailbox that's on our road. No, we have to put our mailbox a half a mile down on the other road, and we have to go get that, which can be pilfered. So my wife and I chose, we'll get a P.O. box. I think those are my largest complaints. You can find lots of others, but that's my biggest objection. And I don't think that's unfair or unreasonable. My taxes are based on comparables. If you live on 5 acres, like I do, you have a home, they go, oh, well, your home is worth X amount of dollars. They look at mine and go, mine's worth X amount of dollars. We have homes out there, people can't sell them because people won't drive their cars on those roads to look at them. That's why am I being taxed? That's wrong. That's my complaint. That's why I'm part of this group.
Okay.
So are your roads actually county roads, or are they private roads?
That's what they tell me. They tell me they are
Because that's
county
too much.
roads and they are to be self-maintained.
So typically, when a subdivision map goes before the board, there's an offer to dedicate the road for public access, and there's an offer to dedicate it, or to add it to the county maintained road system. Since I've been with the county, and actually all the things that I've seen for the last few decades in records, they accept it as a public road, but they don't accept the irrevocable offer of dedication to add it to the county maintained system. So I think that's probably what they're doing here. What we need to do, so then I'm thinking, okay, how can we reflect that then in the community, what we're doing right now? And one of the priorities that came through in the second survey was the community's valuing of road maintenance, particularly as it pertains to emergency ingress and egress, so for emergency evacuation in case of fire, but prioritizing road maintenance and repairs on 3 different levels. One was emergency, like it's emergency hazard to public safety. The second one is to make sure that we can be safe in case of emergency evacuations. And then the third one was just regular maintenance. I'm not sure
So
that this
before you
would
go-
really get entered in
So
that.
before you go any farther,
Yeah,
we have one exit
okay.
for our community. We have places on those roads where you cannot get 2 cars past each other, let alone a full service fire vehicle down that road. Plus we have, being rural residential, we have people with trucks and animal trailers. If those cars get stuck, nobody gets out. Nobody gets in, nobody gets out. How do we change that? We can't change that.
So what we're going to do here then is, where would that go? I'm making note that Jerusalem Valley has 1 exit. So that's a hazard. That some of the roads aren't wide enough to accommodate fire trucks.
Correct.
That's another hazard. The conditions of the roads are poor. Another hazard. Additionally, the public resource code, so the state code for fire safety, they use the numbers 4290 and 4291 a lot, and that's talking about road standards so that emergency personnel can go save your house and save you. And so maybe one thing that we could do then is voice a priority that our rural roads be looked at, and county government seek opportunities such as grant opportunities, benefit assessment zones, but look into options to then enhance these roads and get them up to 4290 standards.
That would be wonderful.
Okay.
That would be wonderful.
Is that amenable to this group? Does that sound
Yeah, it sounds good.
like a
What
priority?
about the implementation?
Well, see, that's the thing. Now, just because it gets in the general plan doesn't mean we can do it tomorrow. But what is important now when the county government is going for grants is that we have a clear link that it's supported by the community's vision. That's one of the main purposes of going through this process. And so if we establish that within this local area plan, as well as it's already going to be in probably countywide and like circulation elements and stuff, but establish it as a priority and an objective, that's when we start working into implementation, which is as becomes available, county will pursue grant funds to bring roads up to the 4290 standards.
Yeah.
And then sorry. go
No,
ahead.
go.
I was just gonna say, and then how do we find out when those grants are available? Because Pomo Lakes is the same situation. We have 1 road in, 1 road out, Hoffacker Lane. We have 3 miles of privately maintained, up until 2 years ago, we received $3 an acre. And the average parcel out there is 10 acres. So you can imagine how much road you can maintain with $30 a year.
Yeah.
I
One
would
of
take
the-
a bucket of gravel and say, where do you want yours?
Yeah, right.
That's
Yeah.
what we've done, and we don't have.
So either we raise the
Yeah.
dues or,
And
One of the other
and
options-
those of us in this community, and probably yours as well, I mean, we understand this, we're not
Right.
waiting for the county to come out and put in a
Yeah,
highway
no.
and
Paved
pave that.
road.
But the county already has a grader, and they will grade Jerusalem grade.
One of the options, I
All
don't
it
know
takes
if
is to
they've
grade
presented
onwards.
it to the communities, is one of the things they did in the Rivieras is they created or established a benefit assessment zone for those roads, so that, and a benefit assessment zone is like a community service area, CSA. And that is something that is voted on by the property owners to, then you pay into the fund for what is considered an extraordinary county service. So it's above and beyond the regular maintenance schedule and stuff like that. And so what they were able to do is those went out for ballot and it passed, and it created a fund that then gave the resources for Public Works to go and take care of those roads. It's not revolving, it's kind of like a one-off, but that may be an option as well. So we could add a priority or an implementation of having community meetings to figure out if that's something that would even fly. You know, that they'd have to take a look and see what it would cost, and to see if there's some solution that they could meet either that way or grants or, you know, something. So, but the point is, what would be in that area plan would be an establishment of a priority in Lower Lake community, that we start looking at ways that we can fund road improvements right now.
Good
I'm
idea.
glad we're getting this recorded, because I can't always write these things down one time. So
I was
I
gonna
see
ask.
nodding, so let's
That's
accept
good.
that, focusing on Jerusalem Valley and Pomo Lakes
Yeah.
estates. Are there any other communities? I mean,
Twin
I'm
Lakes
sure that's
only has one way
rhetorical.
in, one way out.
Okay, so we want to look then at the communities within Lower Lake Planning area that are limited in their emergency evacuation routes.
Yeah.
Okay. That could also be reflected in our safety element, which is countywide. And included in the safety element is what we're doing right now, which is a countywide evacuation report or plan. And they are going to identify, they're laying out the little bump things that you drive over that count traffic.
Yeah.
They're laying those out all over the county right now to sort of get a count for the, did you like that? That was an industry term. Yeah, yeah, so,
I like technical terms.
right? And so we can kind of get a feel for where the choke points, where are people using the roads the most. It goes to inform the countywide evacuation plan.
So you have only one entrance and exit. That was one of our concerns, certainly at least a year ago or more. Enough so that I wrote a letter to Mike McGuire, our senator. And
Yeah,
Cool.
I appreciate their being busy, but I never got an answer from Mike McGuire. I got a standard response. Mike reads all his emails. I sent a letter to Moke Simon, who is our District 1 supervisor. I never heard anything from Moke Simon.
I would encourage you to be the squeaky wheel,
I
because with all the
trust me,
different
that's why you
priorities.
have to put up with me tonight.
Yeah, no,
But
you're doing good.
that's,
Yeah.
You're doing good.
That's the whole point of my being here. You can't do anything if you're not aware of our problem.
Right?
But we're desperate to have something done before we end up like Paradise, or before your community ends up like, or any of us.
No,
In
we,
that
we count ourselves blessed because in the last 8 years, there have been 4 major fires all the way around us.
Yeah. And that's-
We're this 1 mile strip that
Vegetation
has
cleared, yeah.
angels parked on top
Yeah.
of us because the Jerusalem, the Valley, the Clayton, and I want to say Wire Rock Fire, all 4 sides of us.
Rocky
Yeah.
Creek was.
Rocky, yeah.
We were stunned last spring, or this spring, earlier in the year. We had a fire next to us. It was late at night. I happened to be outside with the dog, saw the fire. My wife called 911, and the 911 center couldn't find our address on their map. I don't know if county is responsible for notifying, but if it's not on here, all I can tell you is they went, what? We can't. My wife gave them directions, and by the time the fire truck arrived, the neighbors We'd all gathered together, we cut the lock on the fence, entered the property, and we had tanks of water and put the fire out.
So some
We were just
locations
fortunate-
then are
we're just
not
fortunate
on our
that
map?
it wasn't later in the summer, because that fire would have gone. I'm sorry?
If I understand correctly, then there are locations, like actual addresses that are not on our map, is that correct?
I don't
Like
know.
this one is,
I-
that's really
all
not
I
a
can-
big
I
concern
don't
because
know
it's not
whether
like we
they're-
don't have it.
I mean, if you can Google it, I would assume that you could put it on this map. But the thing that is distressing is that if you call a 911 center and report a county address and road,
And they can't
and the
find it.
911 center goes, where? We don't,
Yeah.
where is that?
So
And
that's
we had to
interesting.
literally guide them in.
Because we do have state regulations on what's called the grid system. And Public Works has the person that maintains that grid system to make sure that every parcel, if it has at least one address on it, you know, sometimes you have
Sure.
multiple houses,
Yeah,
you
all
know,
of
like
ours
different
have,
street
they're
numbers.
almost all.
So
have
I
that.
wonder if that's something that should be called out then, that we need to do an internal review just to make sure that we've got all our addresses.
It would certainly help, because I have no idea why the.
Well, one of the problems
911
is-
center wouldn't know where you are.
Yeah, well, I can think of a few different reasons. Some of them could be homes built without permits, which we.
Oh, trust me, we have. a
Yeah, no, I'm not looking at you.
All right, lock
But
me
yeah,
up.
yeah, right? No, but we did encounter that in Rocky Fire.
Oh.
A number of homes burnt down, and when they came back to you know, we had problems because their homes were all built without permits. So if you're building a house without a permit, the grid tech in the county doesn't know you're there.
Right, absolutely.
And
Shouldn't they show up on
they're the
Parcel
ones,
Quest?
what's that?
Shouldn't they show up on Parcel Quest?
The grid tech isn't gonna be looking around.
Yeah.
No, parcel quest is if you're getting taxed.
I mean, just to have,
But
An
the
address
assessor's
location,
office,
yeah.
good, that's a good point. And that's what I thought too, until I talked to the assessor's office, and if they see changes, like you can have assessor staff just driving by, and these people are amazing. They're like, oh, I don't know that shed's on there, you know, and they'll go check records. But them checking records means that you're gonna get taxed. It doesn't mean that they're communicating with the grid tech.
Right.
So there could be a disconnect there where you feel like everything's kosher because you've been paying taxes on it forever, but not necessarily. So,
We had to work with Lakeshore Fire and Lower Lake and Middletown because our area is split between the two of them. And so we had to put up address signs at the front gate and all along the road indicating where, and even then, because the way the roads are, it's not like a normal street where you would think that all the odd numbers are on one side and they follow in order, some kind of semblance of, no, no.
Yeah,
So
for us, South Lake Fire Safe Council
Yeah.
and CAL FIRE
Yeah.
enabled us, all the residents, to be able to have signs, address signs, the green reflective, the
yeah,
right
right,
numbers.
yeah,
And those are all out in our area.
that's great.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing that they're really pushing, is they need to be able to find people
Yeah.
and with the signage. Okay, I want to stop this conversation right now because there's something that I want to make sure we have to cover, and I only requested your presence for another 15 minutes. So one is planning area boundary changes. So one aspect or one subject before this L.A.P.A.C is the community of Sunrise Shores.
Right.
So they start up here and then they go all the way down, you know, kind of toward the lake. But as, I don't even know your name. I'm sorry. Justin, as Justin pointed out, he is familiar with this water system and it goes all the way straight through. So it's unusual to find a community that is divided by planning area. And so that one was up for consideration of either including it all in Lower Lake or including it, including
Yeah.
all in Lower Lake or all in Rivieras. Does this L.A.P.A.C have a preference? Because the Riv people want it.
And my knowledge of the people that I know live there want Lower Lake.
Okay, so tell me
I know
why.
about 2 or 3 that would prefer to be, they just identify with Lower Lake
Okay.
more.
Well, that is kind of what we're talking about.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would tend to agree that the people who live there should have the option of
You said the Riviera,
including
what,
themselves,
not the
if
Clear
that's
Lake
what they
Riviera.
want.
It would
Yeah.
be the Riviera area plan, which includes all 4 of those large subdivisions,
Oh, it comes over
Buckingham.
here?
Yeah,
Okay.
and it extends down in there.
Okay. And you're saying the Lower Lake people would rather stay in Lower Lake?
The residents that I know that live in that area would prefer Lower Lake. They identify with Lower Lake and
Is
they.
their mailing
they're in-
address Lower Lake?
I believe
I
so.
would say so. I
Yeah.
think so.
Okay. Because most of the Riv is Kelseyville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I consider them Lower Lake.
What's their zip code?
I'd have to, I don't know off the top of my head.
What's the street name? Sunrise Circle?
Or Sunrise Drive.
I don't even know where that is. I'm trying to figure that.
They had a nice fire out there this year.
Jago Bay?
Did they really?
Oh, yeah.
Last year?
Jago Bay, yeah,
Or they have another one?
Yeah, it's Lower
I thought
Lake.
it was this summer.
So their mailing address is Lower Lake.
Yeah.
okay. 95453, no, 95.
4 or 5,
5,
7.
7.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So we're working with them through the state for a water system improvement.
Okay.
I don't know if it makes a difference, but I know this water system, and there are a couple others out here, the state is looking at a consolidation study.
Mm.
So at some point, Sunrise Shore said, no, we're not interested, but I don't think it was made clear that these systems would be brought up to the standards. So at some point, in probably 25 years or so, they may all be certified.
It may consolidate.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's just for the water systems.
Mm-hmm.
So would you go to Bayless Cove or stop it before then, or? I'm curious.
Well, it's not me thing. You guys think. What do you think?
Can we grab the map that includes the Riviera just
Oh,
so
sure.
that they get an
Yeah,
idea of what that looks like? Because I'm looking at the map on my computer and everybody's welcome to come huddle, but
Here's Riviera's.
so it's that corner
Yep, right down
up
here.
there, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So if the line were to continue straight up to the lake, that includes Bayless Cove and all parts east to the lake. Or do you just do Sunrise Estates and pull it
No,
off?
it makes more sense that we probably go this way. Like draw
Yeah.
that line.
Because there's no connection between here and here,
Right.
so why would you, I mean, you either do this or you do that.
Yeah, because we're not going to kind of go this way, you know.
No, I
we
just
like large, easy to read
yeah.
lines.
Well, I had just meant this way,
Right.
or here, or
Ah.
where exactly do you?
Oh, if
and
we were to
that
put it
line,
in the Riv?
If you were to bring in Sunrise Estates, where, how, where does that? Does it come to here?
Then the Riv would probably go this way.
Well, the Riv. This is the Riv. This
Yeah.
is Lower Lake.
Yeah,
So I'm
exactly.
just saying, if you expanded Lower Lake to include that,
Oh, if we expanded Lower Lake,
that's what I
then
mean. Where
then it would probably go.
or
It
just
could go
straight
down
up-
this way and that way. Yeah, it would go
Straight.
for Sunrise Shores, not necessarily the rest of this.
Right.
Yeah. Because that's all Point Lakeview. That kind of feels like Riv.
Right.
Yeah. So we'd probably just take it down here because this. Nobody's really talking about this stuff. So it would probably just go down.
But Lower Lake comes to here now.
Yeah.
So if you were to go Black
We could
Oak
just break that way.
or
yeah. Yeah.
I could ask the water system people if that would be helpful.
Well, it's kind of it doesn't really matter too much. It's more of a division of what identifies as that community.
Yeah.
Because the reason why we'll talk about planning area boundary changes is where do you sort of identify? Do you identify with Upper Lake Nice or do you identify with all the shoreline communities? Sunrise Shores, do they identify with the Rivieras or do they sort of think of themselves as part of Lower Lake? And so water systems, they're gonna change, especially with the push at the state to sort of consolidate where they can. That may not always follow a planning area, and it wouldn't be at a detriment. The planning area boundaries are where we look at when when planners have use permits. And so we're trying to make sure that the project as proposed, whatever it is consistent with the community's vision. And so would we be looking at projects for Sunrise Shores and looking at Riviera's sort of community vision? Or would we be looking at the priorities and the values that are exposed or expressed in the Lower Lake planning area, kind of?
Well, then you should take all of it for Lower Lake, it seems.
Looking at the wrong map. So here's Lower Lake.
Yeah.
So we would just move this little jaunty line
Yeah.
over, take Sunrise.
It's ours. You can see it from here. Well,
What?
not from here. But you can see Sunrise Shore from
Right.
Lower Lake.
Yeah.
Or at least the park.
I have not heard the Riv, they haven't really given much of an argument on why it should be in Riv, they just want it in Riv. But to me, if they identify with Lower Lake, that's their mailing address,
Yeah, that's the mailing address.
that's about all you need, really.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it seems like what your mailing address is,
Yeah.
the district you should be in. But-
Okay, so I'm gonna say yes in Lower Lake and just to include the Sunrise Shore community.
Mhm.
Because what about that one? Black Oak Drive, is that Sunrise Shore? That's not really, is
I
it?
think that's up on the ridge.
Yeah. It looks like it could, there's a definite division, but what about Florence Ave? That kind of
That-
goes into Sunrise Shore.
Yeah, and there are a few houses along it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's say, amend to include Florence Avenue. Florence Ave and Sunrise Court. Okay. Let me think, what else did we need to talk about today? Community growth boundaries, land use designation changes, planning area boundary changes. We added in some road stuff, that was good, even though I wasn't planning on that. I think that's all I've got.
So this is.
Oh,
next.
that's another one, you're right, hold on. So that is. Let's talk about that one. That is, I'm looking at it upside down. Extend the,
Well, it was.
so that's adding some of it into Middletown.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, and it was mainly, the discussion was over on 53. Just where it felt like Lower Lake doesn't really care as you keep going up 53 towards Hidden Valley. But
29.
is it 29?
Yeah, 29
it's
is.
29.
Ah, 53 is the other way, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
That's right.
You guys are the experts. Aren't you glad that you're here tonight?
Uh-huh.
You're very valuable. So, but it was kind of arbitrary. It was just listed as, it kind of feels more like once you start driving, like once you get up past the hill or Bikram Yoga or something,
Yeah.
and on yonder, you sort of feel more like Middletown.
What would Middletown be gaining
So
by
what
doing
is this line? I'm confused.
That is a potential change, which would cut some out of Lower Lake and put it into
So
Middletown.
that would put us into the Middletown.
Yes.
You would be, yeah. What do you want to do, Vince?
I don't see any benefit to that.
Your entire subdivision community is within Lower Lake right now, it looks like, from that.
From here. yeah.
Or are you
Well,
split?
Certainly, what I know from the actual map,
Split.
it literally weaves down parts of Jerusalem grade, it looks like. So I'm not
So
sure.
it's kind of a similar question then to
Yeah.
Jerusalem, or to Sunrise Shores.
Yeah.
Where does Jerusalem Valley see itself?
Yeah. And I know from the input that I've got, the map that you showed, the residents that I've talked to and that I'm trying to represent, I don't think they necessarily have a preference, but our mailing address is Lower Lake. So why wouldn't we be part of Lower Lake?
So then would you stop where the current line is now, or would you recommend that it extend down to include all of Jerusalem Valley? Like, do some of y'all feel like Middletown,
Yeah,
some of you
so-
feel like Lower Lake?
So, what they have here, I'm sorry. Yeah, and this going Burnt Oak, and so this apparently follows Burnt Oak along there.
Right.
Oh, that is interesting.
So, that,
Okay,
it
so-
shows that road, but it doesn't show these others.
So for all of you who aren't seeing that, where it goes below into the Middletown is like a separate subdivision.
Right,
It looks
so,
like.
so it
Yeah,
follows here, but do you see Jerusalem grade goes way
Yeah.
down here?
And that area is, there's not a lot of residents,
Yeah.
it's pretty open, so you've got our community, it looks like, based on that map, I can't tell by what's here.
now see where you got that little jog of Middletown coming
Yeah,
into?
right here.
We could do a similar little jog to get that little triangle piece down
Right,
there,
so
cause that's
this
part
is-
of this subdivision.
This, yeah, this is the,
Yeah.
that piece.
And that's part of Hidden Valley Lake, that might,
Right,
they might
no,
not
no,
appreciate
no,
that.
No, not that
keep
part,
that,
yeah.
but then come over here and pull down
Oh,
this way a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be great to include.
Yeah, cause that little
See, you've
triangle
cut
looks
that
like part of the
triangle off,
subdivision. And it's the same
So,
zoning.
if you were to include that triangle into Lower Lake, just like they took out that
Yeah.
one little piece, you could add this little
Just,
piece.
just add that triangle.
Yeah, like we got this little jog here, we
Yeah,
just do a
it
little
would just-
jog there.
Just be there, and then
Okay.
that would include all of our community.
That kinda makes
we're talking
sense.
about.
Yeah.
All that rural residential area.
And that, what road is that?
Uh,
Jerusalem?
Well, what it says on there on the line is Burnt Oak, if I'm reading that correctly.
Yes, Burnt Oak Road.
Burnt Oak Road,
Yeah.
that's not a fun name.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have some rather odd named roads, but.
I like just saying Black Bass Pass.
Yes.
That's just fun, yeah. Okay, Burnt Oak Road, so include in, Burnt Oak Road.
So Pinsky Road, Ranch Road turns into Burnt Oak Road, but it also, Jerusalem grade comes down and there's the rural residential. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 parcels that are rural residential in that triangle.
Okay, good, got
Can
it.
you take a screenshot and send
I
that to
could-
her?
I can see it, I'll
Okay.
I'll know it.
Yeah.
I can see it, yeah, yeah. That's interesting. Okay, anything else? So do we like the slice? Oh, no, we don't. We want to
No.
keep that and
Yeah.
actually add.
And we
Okay,
wanna add.
okay.
Sorry,
No
Middletown.
on moving stuff to Middletown. Got it. This is a fascinating process. I'm really good at it.
Kudos for you
Yeah.
for doing it yourself.
Well,
So that means that
this
whole
wasn't
piece
part of
is
the
gonna stay with
original
Lower Lake? for
contract?
Yes,
this here is
yes.
gonna stay-
like the whole Lake
So
County
then
20.
it would-
This would just.
It goes
And
back
I
here.
didn't realize it when I was reviewing it for the board, so the board
I
signed
think
it, and
that's
then I'm
good.
like,
I
well,
think
wait a
I'll
second.
factor Lane
Area
always
plans
seemed to be
updated. How
Lower
are we
Lake.
gonna do that without
No, it's not that
area
far out.
plan, like local area plan advisory committees? So that's when I
Doesn't
went to the
feel like
board
it,
later, but
Yeah.
it's not like they were gonna
Yeah.
fork over a gob more money, because this is a
Wow.
good, this is like a
That's a big
concerted
change.
effort, so that's why it's mostly me, but my staff is also
That's a
really
big
helpful.
stoppage.
So
Cool.
they
Oh, yeah.
printed the maps,
Huge. Yeah.
they're organizing stuff,
Good.
they're
Great.
really helping out a lot, so. It's just you get to see
I
me,
was
so
gonna
it looks
ask
like I'm doing all
what
the
is
work.
Lower Lake losing when they do
Yeah.
that though? But
Yeah,
now
so
we're
we
not
don't,
losing
we
it.
don't,
Okay.
we don't want this.
No, we don't want that.
We don't want that.
We don't want what?
This one.
This pink line.
We do not like that line.
We
Got
do
it.
not like
I'm
that
clear.
pink line.
Not only do we not like that line, but we're gonna
It's
take
gonna
some.
stay.
But we're gonna-
It's gonna stay don't like.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I add that here?
No, I think I've recorded that. I
At
think
the
we got it
Middletown
down.
meeting, don't let them take it back. now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hear you. All right, good. That is all I have for today. Is there anything that anybody's curious about or wants to make sure that we record? Except for Vince, who I think we already got everything you want. No, I'm just kidding.
I just want to ask, is there any way that I can support you or that I need to interact with you in regards to follow up with these roads or anything in
Yes.
that respect?
I want you to, well, first for the remainder of Lake County 2050, make sure you're still paying attention.
Okay,
Because we're not done and sometimes
Right.
things fall off.
yes.
So you want to make sure that if it's a priority to you, you stick with it through the end.
Okay,
Especially when it gets before the Board of Supervisors, they're the ones who make the decisions.
Yeah.
So yeah, see it through. You don't have to attend every single meeting, but just sort of, spot check it. as we're going along. Stay on that notification list. And if you want to get added to the L.A.P.A.C notification list, send me an email because, you think that,
Your cards.
county government's got it all figured out, but the L.A.P.A.C email list is me sitting down putting people on a L.A.P.A.C email list. So just make sure that you need, whatever you need to stay informed, you let me know.
If I'm here now, I'm on the list, I presume, huh?
Well, yeah.
Maybe.
Did you get it?
think
I'm on twice.
You may not be on the L.A.P.A.C list, because that's the one I made. The notification list on the website is a massive email list of everybody. But then when the board appointed L.A.P.A.C members, I went over to my little Microsoft Outlook,
Yeah.
and added people in a group. But I've noticed that other people are attending meetings regularly, so I'm just adding them to the group too,
Yeah.
just so they get the same notifications.
Right.
So
Yeah,
my
that's
goal is to keep you as informed as you want to be. You just need to let me know.
Okay.
And does this website stay updated?
Yes.
It's pretty
Okay.
good.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a little lag time in when meetings get put on the calendar because we're scheduling them like almost every other meeting. We're like, okay, we need a couple
No,
more meetings.
yeah, time of day.
And then, but yeah, it's getting updated as quickly as they can get
Okay,
it. Yeah.
If
great.
you saw her calendar, you would have nightmares, I'm telling you.
No, this is good stuff.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Okay, that's all I got. Thanks everybody for
Thank you.
showing up.
Thank you.
Thanks for